I furrowed my brows, feeling a mixture of emotions. But my mother was indifferent, continuing, "This is good stuff. It's what your sister's child wore, and the quality is excellent. You should let your child wear it." My mother-in-law, standing by, had a somewhat stiff expression, forcing a smile. Thank you for your concern." I felt an indescribable discomfort, a deep sense of powerlessness. I recalled how, when I was young, my mother always told me, "Your sister will take care of you in the future, so you should learn to be grateful to her." But why now did I only feel it was unfair? At a later family gathering, my sister came with her child. She still looked glamorous while I always felt somewhat haggard. At the dining table, my mother began her praise mode again. "Look at your sister, good job, good husband, and smart child. You should learn from your sister." My sister smiled slightly, saying Coca the sly, "Mom, you shouldn't say that. My sister is also very good, she's a capable mother." I could only force a smile, feeling increasingly heavy-hearted. Why did I always have to live in my sister's shadow? Why, in my mother's eyes, was my sister always the best, while I was always the one who needed to look up to her? A few months later, my husband and I decided to move to another city to start a new life. When my mother heard about it, she hurriedly called me. "Why are you moving all of a sudden? You're not familiar with life over there. What if something happens?" I firmly said, "Mom, I decided. I need to take responsibility for my own life." On the other end of the line, my mother was silent for a while, then finally sighed, "All right then, take care of yourself." After moving to the new city, I began to replan my life. Although it was difficult at first, I gradually found my rhythm. One day, I found a beautiful piece of children's clothing at a flea market, feeling a sense of satisfaction I had never experienced before. Perhaps when my mother found that $5 worth of clothing, she felt the same way. I finally understood that my mother's love, though clumsy, was her way of giving me the best she could. When I went back to visit my mother again, her hair was already white, and her eyes shone with tears when she saw me. "You're back. Have you eaten?" I nodded, feeling a warmth I had never felt before. Perhaps my mother's favoritism was just a different way of showing her love. No matter what, she would always be my mother. In-law, don't mind it. These are all good brands. Her sister is very picky, and these clothes cost hundreds to thousands, some of which I even bought for her. Children grow fast, and these clothes have become too small to wear. It would be a waste to give them to others. It's better to benefit Tom. Tom is my son's name. I was truly embarrassed, unable to hold back any longer. "Mom, can you stop saying that?" My mother looked stunned. "What did I do wrong? You weren't upset because these are old clothes, are you? What's wrong with old clothes? You've been wearing hand-me-downs since you were little. Have you forgotten? Why are you so vain now? Let me tell you, it's a good thing for kids to wear hand-me-downs. It brings good luck. Haven't you heard that some wealthy families specifically seek out old clothes from others for their children to wear, just to bring good fortune? Besides, these are your nephew's clothes. What's there to be picky about?" My mother exaggerated, shouted, clearly not pleased. "In any case, I don't want them." I felt a lump in my chest, a murky discomfort, making me inexplicably irritable. Actually, I wasn't opposed to wearing old clothes. I just couldn't accept the way my mother presented them. Couldn't accept her blatant, boastful tone in front of my mother-in-law. I didn't know why, I just knew that all of this made me feel subtly uncomfortable, instinctively resistant. So my tone was harsh and strong. My mother also got a bit angry, throwing the clothes in her hand onto the floor with a huff. "I meant well, how could you be so ungrateful?" My mother-in-law quickly tried to smooth things over. "In-law, Julia didn't mean it that way. Mainly, the baby already has plenty of clothes. Lots of friends have given us some, and we can't use so many. We don't want to waste your kindness." But my mother stared wide-eyed, as if she didn't understand. How can clothes from others compare to those from family? There's a difference between close and distant relations, isn't there? Anyway, I've brought them. If you don't want them, just throw them away yourself," she said petulantly. With that, she stood up, saying she had to go home to cook for my dad. No matter how my mother-in-law tried to persuade her to stay, she left my house in a huff. I was in a bad mood all afternoon. I locked myself in my room and cried. Until Kevin came back. When he heard everything, he smiled knowingly. I was wondering why Mom suddenly called me over and gave me $5,000, saying it was for you and Tom to buy clothes. My mom is such a miser, it's hard to get her to spend money. Quickly put it away. Let's invite your mom over more often and we'll get rich. Even though I knew he was trying to cheer me up, I couldn't help but laugh. I kicked him lightly. "You're so cunning." "Hey, I'm serious. A stable income of $5,000 a month is $60,000 a year, which is equal to one of our salaries." Seeing me laugh heartily, he then put on a serious face and said, "If you don't like those clothes, just throw them away. We can afford new ones." Why get so worked up? Is it worth crying over? You know your mom, right? Straightforward and clumsy, just speaks her mind. She doesn't mean any harm. In the end, she just feels that since we're all family, there's no need to hide anything. Actually, I know you. You're just upset that she spoke like that in front of my mom, aren't you? But my mom isn't an outsider, right? Does it mean that my mom will look down on you or treat you cruelly because of what she said? You're just overthinking it. I blushed as he exposed my true feelings, stammering in defense, "I'm not." But the heavy heart, after he said it like that, felt much lighter. Maybe he was right, sometimes I do overthink things. "By the way, have you talked to your mother-in-law about the house?" he asked me while hanging up his coat. Initially, because my mother-in-law's family's financial situation was modest and there were rumors of a rebuild. When I got married, my mother-in-law didn't buy a house for us. We've been living in another house of my mother-in-law's. But now that we have a child, living together feels too cramped. My family has two houses, one for living in and one for renting out. My mom had already said, when eldest sister got married, they gave her a dowry of 1 million yuan. When I got married, they wouldn't give me money because the liquid assets were limited, so they would give me the rental house instead. It could be transferred to me at any time. Kevin's idea was to ask my parents if we could live there temporarily, and we would move out immediately once the rebuilt house was ready. Although my mom has always said she would give me that house and has asked Kevin several times, somewhat embarrassed, if he would mind that it was an old, small house. But Kevin didn't seem to take that house as ours by default. He said, the wedding house should be provided by the man. If I can't provide it now, so be it, but I can't just take your family's house for granted. So, there's no need for the transfer. At least until our rebuilt house is ready, I won't accept taking your mother-in-law's house. If your mother-in-law can lend it to us temporarily, I'd be immensely grateful. I was touched, so I asked my mom as he suggested.